Hey guys, welcome back to part 4. Okay, I got you on my tripod right now. But right there, of course, is the carrier. And as far as I know, these are not directional. However, just to be on the safe side, I did put a T right there, and so that is the top. So that's how it's going to set on the machine. And we may have to go through the back. But yeah, that just goes in there sideways, and then you give it a turn. About like that. Take a pry bar. There we go. Well, just like that. And right there's the outside. And right there's the T up on top. I just took a pencil and marked it right there into my thumb. Just like that. So maybe you just kind of have to align it. For the most part, fairly flat. So it's fairly flat in there. There we go. Need a little bit more pop than a rubber hammer. Okay, that's got that. Now I'm going to get ready to put this back onto the main shaft. When I talked to the guy over at Plevna Implement, he told me he actually uses a brass punch to drive this back on the shaft in the combine. That way you don't actually ding up the shaft. However, I do not have a brass punch. So what I'm going to look for is a piece of pipe that will actually butt up against that, and you just hammer directly on that, and then you can take a hammer and hammer on the end of the pipe. Same principle. So I'm going to go see if I can find a piece of pipe to go over top that. I want to take a little bit of emery paper and just shine that all up good. You can see right there's a shoulder, and behind the shoulder it actually gets bigger diameter. Okay, that's got him all shined up. Just makes that bearing will just make it slide on a little bit easier. However, it definitely has to fit good and tight, because you do not want that spinning inside the bearing race, and so that's a big no-no also. But that's got all the crudiness and any possible little burr and everything off. We're good to go. I managed to find a piece of pipe. I may have to end up taking the chop saw and actually shortening it up. It's pretty about 3 feet long. But however, it's actually the exact perfect diameter and butts right around the ring of that race right there. So that should work okay too. Alright, well, I've got this here all sandpapered down. I've had that little fan sitting there blasting air on this now for a while, just to make sure it's all cooled down nice and cool. Because if it's warm, it'll actually cause the bearing to go on harder, because that means as it cools down, the metal's going to contract some. So out here is all nice and cool. Still got a little bit of warmth right there. Not too bad though. And of course the bearing goes actually over top of these teeth, and then it begins to jump into on the shaft right there at the back of these spline teeth going on. So I'll get ready to put it on here. We'll see what happens. The bolts didn't have it, but I am going to take and put a little bit of blue Loctite on. I would suggest you don't use red. The blue holds good, but yet if you ever have to take it back out, you can, no big deal. Okay, now I just got to get that top hole to line up. I may have to get a pry bar, that way I can raise up on it. Yeah, we're kind of stuck down because it's up against the wall. I'll grab a pry bar, that way I can stick in here and push up on it and get them holes realigned. Okay, there we go. I can tell you one thing, I think it's got some weight to it. Okay, once you get the top one in, the other three should basically fall right in place. As far as an actual torque setting, I'm just going to take and tighten them down good and snug by hand, and that'll have it. Like I say, with the Loctite in there, I may have taken and wiggle that one. With the there we go. With that Loctite in there, I can take and you can just take and tighten it down by hand, and the Loctite will hold it in place, and it's not going to let the bolt come loose. Okay, well, we'll get the side ones in, and that'll have this part on. Okay, that's got all 4 bolts in. Take and snug them all down evenly before you put your final pull. Okay, that's got that one. There we go. Okay, those are all down good and tight. Blue Loctited in, which is medium strength. And so now we're ready to put the pulley on. Okay. Well, it all looks good inside there. Trying to get them. There may be a little bit of a burr out here, possibly. I don't feel anything because when I picked on it with the hammer, I was actually just sliding up and down the side of them teeth. Well, I'll grab a little bit of emery paper and we'll see if we can just kind of shine up around there and make pop on a little bit easier. Okay, I took a little bit of emery paper, went around them shoulders. The only thing I can figure is when I was sliding the hammer up and down through here, maybe that shoulder kind of hooked that one right there on that side. I could kind of feel just a little bit of a burr, but hardly anything at all. That is kind of odd though. Just had to keep working at it here. We'll get it done. Okay, well, I very quickly discovered the problem. I thought that went down a little bit lower over those teeth. Well, come to find out, I am actually clear back up against the bearing, and so it's bottomed out. Like I say, I thought that went back a little bit farther, but now that I get looking at a little bit of that crudiness in there, that's the reason why. Those teeth did not come outside this collar piece, and so now we're ready for the shims. Okay, and here are the shims. And then it's ready to now to put the magnet onto it. Same thing when you put this here on. Take a little bit of blue Loctite on your bolts. And like I say, it's really odd. Oh, I guess it would help if I got the last bolt out of there. Okay, now we're ready to go on. You can see where this thing has been taken apart before, but yet that main drive shaft bearing sure did look original for it to have that black paint on it like that. Because you do not have to take this here off if you simply replace the two outer bearings in this. However, if you're going to put these bearings in new, put that one in new. Just do it all together. Okay, I just got these bolts here tightened down, and so that's got that all in. Now, ready to begin working on this piece right here. And probably what I'll do, put the back bearing in first, stand it up, put it onto the drive shaft, and then put the front bearing in from out here, because there is a spacer that goes between the bearings right down there. And of course this bearing here is already out, so no big deal there. And it does actually look like whoever replaced these bearings, well, you can obviously see that's the outside. It's all filthy dirty. Inside is nice and clean. But whoever put these bearings in, I see a little dab of Loctite right around there. And so I may take and probably do the same thing. Now that back bearing is out, you just take a long punch and your hammer, go through and knock out the front bearing. I thought. Let's see if I can show it to you a little bit more clearly. That's probably, yeah, okay, yeah, let me take the punch. Okay, you can see right around there, that's the ring, that's the race ring I'm smacking on. And yeah, it's definitely stuck in there, I can tell you that much. I may have to grab a bigger hammer. Of course, they've got to be stuck in tight because you don't want the bearing or this part here actually spinning around the bearing. And so it definitely has a seat in there tight. And my guess is that's what that Loctite's here for. It helps to make it stick, because you can see that bluish. That looks like blue Loctite. So I may have to grab a little bit bigger sledgehammer to take and punch that thing out of there. Okay, grab my 8-pound hammer. Now that's doing what it's supposed to. That's making it move. There we go. That 8-pound makes it pretty nice. Right there's, that would be the inside of that bearing I just drove out, and you can see the grease seal's going bad. It let all the grease out. And that's probably the bearing. I can kind of feel it. That was making noise. One thing though I did see, this bearing here actually has 2 O-rings that go in the little grooves. And the new bearing, there was no O-rings that came with it. Right there's the box. And so I'm just going to take and pop them O-rings out and put them in that new bearing. Yeah, it's obvious, so the grease seals begin to go bad and let the grease out. There's one O-ring. We'll get the other one here. I don't know why the O-rings weren't in the box. However, it doesn't exactly surprise me none, because just like typical Agco and John Deere and Case are just as bad, they'll sell you individual pieces. That way they can charge you more for it. And so if you want O-rings, yeah, you can get them. They'll end up charging you more for it as opposed to just selling it all together. Okay, and there's that one. Rolled around. Keeps wanting to pop up out of that groove. There we go. All right. That's got the O-rings back in that groove on the new bearing. We're good to go there. Just out of curiosity, I'm going to take and pop this grease seal off. Let's see. It should. There we go. It should pop right off there. There we are. Oh yeah. We're getting dry inside. That's the bearing that was making noise when the machine was running. I could hear it. And so, definitely due for a replacement. Just so I'd see if I could kind of shake it. But there's no looseness in it. But yeah, with that grease coming out of the back of it, yeah, it means it was going out. Time to be replaced. Okay, I don't want to put a lot of Loctite in there. I'm just running like a little bead, kind of right around at the base of that ring. That way it just kind of seats into it. Because looking down in there, I don't really see it like coated up the side or anything like that. In fact, I don't really see it much on this side. It's kind of just in that area right there. Get some of that old bean dust out of there. And so we'll put a little bead around that. Clean him out a little bit. As that one YouTube guy says, clean out all the schmutz. In fact, I think that's Jacob Bain from Bain Farm on YouTube. Okay, that's got that ring all cleaned out, and I'm going to grab my Loctite. Maybe I'll just kind of do what it appears somebody else did. Put a little bit right around that area. Like that. and that's all I see. I grabbed a little steel plate piece that we use for our press. That way it gives me a good smooth surface to hammer on. Okay, that's getting it down. Yeah, they were going in. Okay, I can feel it. That will kind of countersink just a little bit more. And so let's make sure it's down as far as I can go with the plate. Okay, I got it down as far as I can take with the plate. And like I say, I can still feel a little bit of that ledge inside there. So now I'm going to have to grab something. In fact, sometimes with stuff like that, you can actually use impact sockets because they'll seat right around that outer ring and knock it down. So I'm going to go grab some of my big impact sockets. We'll see if we can use that to finish it off. Okay, grab my big sockets, and sure enough, my big 2.5 inch works perfect. Here's where I wish I could actually use my press. Well, you know what? I thought I could feel a gap underneath there. Maybe it's already bottomed out. I just wanted to make sure it was well seated in there. That just might be it. Okay, I'm looking through this way. I took my little mirror. Not too sure how well you can see. You can't really see it too well on camera, but right there, I can see the bearing is down against that little lip, and so it is bottomed out. That's what I want. And so I gotta clean up this here. That's where all that greasy stuff came out of the front bearing that was going out. And then get this spun around, and they'll be ready to go over here onto this drive shaft. Like I say, I'll put the outside bearing in. I'll probably, like I say, I'm thinking about doing that after I get this on. Wait and see. Okay, I got the pulley set up here, and I'm going to start pulling forward. That way, get this lined up to go back onto the big drive shaft. And I've already put that spacer in there. That sits in between the two bearings, like that. So I'm going to start pulling up to it and start getting that to line up on that drive shaft. Gotta get this walked up here closer. Ah, there we go. I put that plate on each side of that, and it keeps the pulley from wanting to roll back and forth. Okay, hang. I need to come up just a little bit more because this is still a little bit lower, and come farther forward. About as close as I can get with the forklift without actually hitting that panel. Let's take a look back in behind here. Okay, I bumped it. Gotta come up about another, inch or two to get the line up on that drive line. So let's take and bump him up and see what happens. Oh. Okay, my pallet caught on that little stud bolt right there a little bit. Still catching on it. Okay, yeah, we're not too far off. Like I see, without a forklift, it's practically impossible to get that thing back up on there, unless you're Hercules or something like that. That thing's nice and heavy, I can tell you that much. Okay, not too sure how well you can see that, but yeah, we're getting it walked on. Okay, that's getting it back in there. Hope, like I say, you might be able to see some of that. Keep hitting my camera on that pulley. Okay, there's the end of the drive shaft. I can see that now. Let's see if it'll hang right there and hold itself. And there we go. Okay, that's what I want. I'm going to take him back out of here with the forklift. That way now I can access it, because it's now halfway on that drive shaft. Yeah, there we are. I got my lights brought around. Yeah, now you can see right up in there. Now, one thing I'm going to have to do, getting that bearing driven back on that shaft, because it goes on kind of force fit. I've got it started by hand. Well, Well, that went a whole lot easier than what I was. Wow. That went on a lot easier than what I was counting on. I was figuring I was going to have to take and put like a 2x4 or a board across the face of this and smack on it with a sledgehammer. I guess I ate my Wheaties for breakfast. Okay, well, that's what I want. So now we are ready for the front bearing. Yeah, I got a little bit of dirt in that right there. Get that cleaned out. It does have this like little compression ring right there I found once I got the old bearing popped out. You can see it's kind of wavy, just like a little spring deal. We'll take and pop him back in. There we go. Yeah, rolls nice and easy. Stick my hand back in here. Okay, looks like I may have to go back a little bit farther. But that's got a good chunk of it on anyway. Yeah, I will. Because just looking in there, I can see this outside bearing sits back in there farther on this shaft. And so I may have to take and put a board up against that anyway and give her a couple good smacks, get that bearing driven all the way back to those shims that I put on. And so I'm going to grab a board and a hammer and we'll give it a few good whacks. Got me a 2x4 here. Let's see here. Okay, we're slowly getting on. I can put my hand in there in between the magnet and the armature part, and that gap is slowly closing shut. See what you gotta watch, or you don't want to do. That space right there is butted up to the back side of that inner bearing. If you try and drive on that spacer, yeah, you're going to be hitting on the inner race of the bearing, but it's actually a good way to take and knock that bearing out of the housing, and you don't want that. And so by putting the board up there and driving on this right here, you're pushing the bearing and the pulley all together. And so we'll keep hammering on it here and getting shoved all the way in there. Okay, I think I got it pretty much all bottomed out. Got a nice groove in the end of the 2x4 from that. And that looks to be about the right thickness. And I can kind of see a ring of where the old bearing was. I took emery paper and cleaned them all up. Not even breaking in the 2x4. Huh. Well, whacking on it with an 8-pound sledgehammer, something's going to give after a while. But hey, at least that hitting on that board is a lot better than hitting on that cast piece, because you sure don't want to go hammering on that thing directly with a hammer. Go to break it. Okay, that looks like that should have it. Like I say, I can feel the magnet and the armature back there, and they're sitting right side by side. In fact, I can actually kind of pull them together, which is what you want. Okay, that's got it. Now I'll get the front bearing and be ready to put that in. Here's the front bearing. I want to see if I can find me a piece of pipe that I can put over top that to take and drive it in there. In fact, what I may do is actually take just a little bit of oil, since it's got those O-rings on that, and see if I can just take and put a little, it'll just make them go in a little bit easier. So I'll bring you back in here a little bit and see what I can come up with. Got me a piece of pipe here. There we go. That piece of pipe was exact size because it went right over top these splines and right against that inner race. That's what you want, because you sure don't want to go and tear up your grease seal or anything like that. But you got a piece of pipe that fits on there, it'll go right against that race, seat him right in. One thing I did, I took a little bit of WD-40 and shot around on the inside and also on the O-rings. That way it slides in just a little bit easier, as opposed to trying to drive in dry metal on that dry steel, or actually cast. It's actually a good way to take and kind of tear those little O-rings up as we're trying to slide down through that Good way actually take and just rip them right out of there. And so that's got that on. Now we're going to start putting the assembly back, or the outer armature back in. Now we're ready for the armature. I will go ahead and grab one bolt. Just set him up in there, and whew, got a bunch of dirt and dust going everywhere. Same thing here. If it's not already marked, make sure you take and you put a mark onto it. You can see somebody put that white paint mark on there. Just need to take and rotate it a little bit. There we go. I'll go ahead and put that bolt in, that way it can't fall off. But what you want is come on. There we go. These, right there they are. These two terminals where your wiring hooks in, you want those to line up with the back two terminals. Okay, I'll just put one bolt in because I'm going to take and put a little blue Loctite on that. I'm putting a little blue Loctite on these bolts. That's the first one I put in. I'll go ahead and spin him back out and put a little Loctite on there. Now, surprisingly, whoever had this apart previously did not put Loctite on. But I like to run the blue, and it just keeps everything all in and makes sure nothing comes loose. Alright, let's get the last bolt run in with the fingers. And grab my ratchet and we'll tighten it down. It'll be good to go. Okay, now when I go to put a pole on that, the thing wants to turn. Same thing there, just down good and snug. You don't want it down so tight that you break a bolt off, although them are grade 5. But that's why you put Loctite on it. Let's get it all tightened down. Now, I'm going to take and get these little wires hooked up to them terminals right there. Okay, now we're ready to take and put these shims on. Make sure we got them all. There we go. Now I'm ready for the magnet. Okay, right there is the magnet. There we go. Okay, and of course that rotates. This here engages once you actually put the power to it. Next step, we are ready for the big bolt going on the end. Okay, right there's the big bolt. And something, in fact, a neighbor of mine told me this trick a long time ago. when you go to take and torque a bolt down, take and put a little bit of oil right beneath the shoulders of the bolt. And what that oil does is, as the bolt goes down, the bottom shoulders don't just hit right on its, so that it's metal on metal, and you can actually hit your proper torque setting. So I'm going to have to get my torque wrench on that one, along with my torque multiplier, and I'll take a look in my service manual, and hopefully it'll say what torque to put that at, but I'm not sure. Been doing a little bit of research, and so far I cannot find anywhere about a torque setting for that big bolt. And in fact, I even called the AGCO dealer, and they didn't know anything. They said that I guess they do not have a service manual for the older R series combines, and so right now, I know when I took the big bolt off, that big impact didn't really even hammer on it at all, just to spin it right off there. And so I'm going to put it down to 400 to 500 foot-pounds, and of course it's got that lock nut right there, and that should be good enough. Got my torque multiplier here set up. It doesn't have a very long handle, and so I actually had to just get this big long pipe, just stick up here, and that way it actually pulls, and it's the ground holds the green pipe and the multiplier handle, and then I can use my torque wrench. If you've never used one of these, it is 1 to 4. So 100 foot-pounds on this side is 400 foot-pounds on this side. And so right now I've got my torque wrench set at 100. I'm kind of debating, do I go with 100 or should I go with 125, which would be 500? Let's see here. Try and get my numbers run up here. Okay, that right there looks like 115. Just gotta keep playing with it. Okay, right there's approximately 125. Coming down on it. Just goes kind of slow. That is a big grade 8 bolt, so we should be good to go. All right, that snap means we are at approximately 500 foot-pounds. That's what I want. So we'll take the torque wrench off, get the big green pipe out of there. Yeah, there's that multiplier. I don't use that thing very often, but it sure is handy to have when you need it. I took a pry bar and just stuck here into the magnet. Come on, let's go. There we are. That held it. That way it couldn't turn on me. Okay, now we are ready to put this faceplate piece on. And that'll have that part basically all put back together. This multiplier is actually made to go up to 1,000 foot-pounds. I actually have seen them, well, take that back. It's 1,000 foot-pounds. It's 1/2 inch drive input, 3/4 inch drive output. And I've actually seen them where they are 3/4 inch drive input, 1 inch output. And I think some of the ones I've checked out on them, when I bought this one here, I think they were good to go for like, I know it was at least 2,000, if not maybe 2,300 to 2,500. They were big. But like I say, that thing sure is handy when you need it. That can get up to a higher torque rating. And which actually, I do have a 3/4 inch torque wrench, a big Carlisle. But using this right here is so much easier because, well, I mean, at a 1 to 150 foot-pounds, it's not a whole lot of pull. And when you're using a multiplier, whereas with a 3/4, it's just a much higher, you just got to pull down the thing a lot harder, and it's also a lot longer wrench. And so this, using a 1/2 inch drive torque along with a multiplier, it's just a lot more convenient. And so we're going to get this faceplate here mounted on now. Okay, right there is the big faceplate, and that thing's got some weight to it. It's kind of like got like a little bit of a groove. And so if you can get them holes to line up, there we are. It'll kind of fall in, maybe. And of course, once again, always make sure you mark it. And right there, the little white line, we're lined up back to where it needs to be, just like it came off. Okay, I think we're good to go. Just keep your toes back in case it should fall off. Same thing here again. Some blue Loctite. Okay, now it can't go anywhere. Same way here, just put them down good and snug. With that Loctite on there, they can't go anywhere. I just take a little pry bar and stick right in there and put up against that. That way the thing can't turn when you go to put a pull on it. Okay, there we go. I'm just going to finish up getting the rest of these down or tightened up, and then I'll have this faceplate. Okay, I've got them all snugged down. And of course, right there's your wiring. We can go ahead and take that out. I'll go ahead and get some zip ties. That's the best way to attach that, because you got this cutout where your wire comes up and hooks onto your brush head right here. Get the wires popped out in the middle. There we go. I always run a little bit bigger zip tie right here around the base of this arm, and there at the wire, where the wire comes from the armature. And then I run smaller ones on up from that. Okay, that didn't fall in place like I wanted. Also, one nice thing with big zip ties like this is if you zip them down, you can take them and pop them right back apart again. Come on, just like that. There we go. Just stick a knife blade in there and it'll open up that little tab and you can reset it. Okay, there we are. Now I'll take a smaller zip tie and go right around up here, and then I can see another mark line right here. I run another zip tie around right there. Then of course this comes out into the brush and connects. Okay, there's that zip tie, and now you just find the wire right back in behind there and go right around that cast piece as well. Okay, that's got the wire all zip tied in place. Now we're ready for the brush head. However, before I can start putting belts back on, I actually have new belts on order for the hydro and the head drive. I talked to that aftermarket place I always go through, Manchester Farm Center out of North Manchester, Indiana. And he said that he should have my parts heading my way sometime today, hopefully this afternoon. And so I'm kind of at a stopping point now until I can get those belts put on. And tell you what, I don't know if I will make a part 5 of putting these belts on or not, because it's just the opposite of the way I took them off. And so I'll just have to see. If I decide to make a part 5, fine. If not, well, you saw how they came off. They go back on the same way, just the opposite. And so but yeah, at least I made 4 parts though of rebuilding all this, and so hopefully that'll at least help you out and give you some information anyway if you ever had to take this apart. I will be taking and rebuilding the other side. I've got the new big bearing for that, and so I will be making some part videos of that as well. And yes, I'm going to take a pair of side cuts and cut that little tail off. But and so but yeah, I hope to make a video series on the right hand side over on the hydraulic shiv part. And so tell you what, I think I'm just going to call an end to this video series. And so take care. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time.